Hey everyone, ready to dive into some team dynamics? Today we'll be extracting some wisdom from the CodeSkill Chronicles podcast and their episode titled The Great Collaboration Conundrum, Thriving in Team Chaos.
Oh, yeah. This one's a good one.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It really got me thinking about, how we can all work better together to ship, awesome products as a team.
Right, exactly. Software development's definitely a team sport, and like any team, things can get, a little messy.
Absolutely. So let's jump right in. The episode starts by talking about this idea of finding your groove, especially as a junior developer. And they really paint this hilarious picture of a bobblehead nodding junior dev who's just like so overwhelmed they just agree to everything.
Oh, yeah. I've definitely been there.
Haven't we all? But why is that such a problem? Why is that initial hesitation to ask questions such a big deal?
Well, it's not really about a lack of confidence or anything. It's more about the downstream impact,
Oh.
That hesitation can snowball into missed deadlines,
Yeah.
rework, tons of wasted effort later on.
So it's not just about speaking up, it's about making sure everyone's on the same page from the very beginning.
Exactly. And the episode actually gives this great example of a junior dev who, by simply asking for clarification on a vague spec, saved their team an entire week of work.
Wow, a whole week. That's huge.
Yeah, it just goes to show how important it is to, speak up and ask questions no matter how dumb they may seem.
So true. Senior devs have a responsibility here too, right?
Yeah.
To foster an environment where questions are welcomed and mistakes are seen as learning opportunities.
100%. It's all about creating that safe space for open communication.
Hmm.
But, once you sound your footing as a junior dev, the next hurdle is keeping everyone in sync without descending into utter chaos. The episode uses this image of herding caffeinated squirrels in a thunderstorm to describe this challenge.
Oh my gosh, that is so accurate.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it highlights the need for, robust systems and clear processes. Version control systems like Git are absolutely essential here.
We all know Git is crucial. But even with Git, things can go wrong. What are some practical tips to avoid becoming the dreaded merge conflict monarch?
Well, sticking to well-defined branching strategies and communicating clearly about who's working on what can prevent a lot of headaches.
Makes sense.
It's also important to remember that merge conflicts are inevitable. It's how you handle them that really matter.
Totally. They actually share a story about accidentally overwriting a teammate's work.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
It's a good reminder that we all make mistakes, and it's how we respond that defines us as collaborators.
Humility goes a long way.
For sure. So it's not just about the tools, it's about the mindset we bring to collaboration. Beyond Git, what are some other strategies for keeping everyone in sync, especially when deadlines are looming?
Well, clear and consistent communication is paramount. What causes that? Where's the update? Panic. It's often a lack of visibility into who's doing what and when.
Right. So having a central hub, whether it's Slack, Jira, or something else, and establishing clear communication norms can really help.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And asynchronous communication, which is often essential in software development, can be incredibly efficient if done well. But it requires being extra thoughtful about the clarity and completeness of our messages.
That makes sense. We don't always have the luxury of immediate back and forth, so we've found our groove, we're syncing like pros. What's the next stage in this collaborative coding journey?
Shipping, of course. Ultimately, the goal of all this collaboration is to deliver a fantastic product as a team.
Which brings us to the next point, shipping as a squad. What are some of the key takeaways from the episode about how different team members contribute to this final stage?
Well, it starts with personal accountability. Each developer is responsible for ensuring their code is thoroughly tested and doesn't introduce bugs that could break production. The episode shares this humbling story about an accidental production break and that dreaded "we're disappointed" email.
Oof, I bet they double-check their tests after that. But it highlights how one person's mistake can affect the entire team and ultimately the end users.
Exactly. And while testing is crucial, it's not just about individual responsibility. They talk about mid-level developers often stepping up as clutch players. These are the folks who can spot gaps, anticipate potential problems, and ensure a smooth launch.
It's like being the glue that holds everything together, making sure all the pieces fit just right.
Precisely. And of course, senior developers play a vital role here too, not just in guiding the technical direction, but also in creating a culture that celebrates successes and analyzes failures constructively.
They give a great example of a team celebrating a successful launch with a pizza party, followed by a debriefing session to learn from any hiccups. It's that balance of recognizing achievement and continuous improvement that really stood out to me.
It's a great example of how to build a team that's both high-performing and supportive. They highlight the importance of senior developers leading by example, demonstrating humility, and creating an environment where everyone feels comfortable taking risks and learning from mistakes.
So before we dive into our listeners' specific questions about thriving in team chaos, let's quickly recap the 3 key takeaways from the CodeSkill Chronicles episode.
Finding your groove, syncing smart, and shipping together. The 3 pillars of successful code collaboration.
And I love how they wrap up the episode with this idea of dancing through chaos, because software development is rarely a perfectly choreographed ballet.
It's more like a lively, sometimes unpredictable dance where everyone has to be adaptable and resilient, which I think perfectly segues into the listeners' questions for this deep dive they're particularly interested in. Strategies for effective asynchronous communication, especially for remote teams. They've been struggling with feeling constantly connected and overwhelmed by the sheer volume of messages and
Oh,
notifications.
yeah. I feel that that's a common pain point these days, isn't it?
It really is, especially in today's, always-on work culture.
So how do we find that sweet spot between staying informed and not feeling chained to our inboxes?
Asynchronous communication can be a real lifesaver here, but it requires a bit of a mindset shift and some specific strategies to make it work well.
So what are some of those strategies? What can we do to make asynchronous communication less overwhelming?
Well, the CodeSkill Chronicles episode actually touches on a few key points. First, consolidating communication channels can significantly reduce the noise. Instead of bouncing between Slack, email, and various project management tools, try to choose one central hub for most team communication.
Right. Having one go-to place for updates and discussions can definitely streamline things. But even with a centralized platform, asynchronous communication can feel overwhelming if we don't set some ground rules.
Absolutely. Clarity is paramount. When you're not having a real-time conversation, it's crucial to be extra thoughtful about how you structure your messages. Provide context, anticipate potential questions, and be explicit about what you need from the recipient.
It's like writing a really good email.
Exactly. And just like with email, setting clear expectations for response times is essential. Just because a message is sent asynchronously doesn't mean it requires an immediate response.
Oh, thank goodness. That's a huge relief to hear. I think a lot of us feel pressured to be always on, even when we're not technically working.
Yeah, it's a trap that's easy to fall into. But establishing those boundaries and communicating them clearly can make a world of difference.
I think that's so important. And it kind of ties into the listener's next question. They also mentioned struggling with maintaining a sense of team cohesion when everyone's working remotely. It's easy to feel isolated and disconnected when you're not physically together.
Absolutely. While the episode focuses on general teamwork principles, I think many apply even more strongly in a remote setting.
For sure. So what are some specific things we can do to build that sense of camaraderie when we're not physically in the same space?
Well, fostering open communication, celebrating wins together, and creating opportunities for casual interactions can help bridge that physical gap.
Like virtual water cooler moments.
Exactly. Regular team check-ins, even if they're just for casual conversation, can go a long way. Encouraging team members to share their interests and what they're doing outside of work can also help build those personal connections.
That makes sense. Now, there's one more question from our listener that I think ties in nicely with the episode's theme of dancing through chaos. They're wondering how to deal with those inevitable moments when things go wrong, especially when working on a team. How do we navigate those oops moments constructively?
Mistakes are inevitable in software development. Code breaks. Deadlines get missed. It's part of the process. The key is to shift our mindset from blame to understanding.
Right. The episode does a great job of normalizing those experiences. They emphasize owning up to mistakes, learning from them, and using them as opportunities for growth.
Exactly. When we approach mistakes with curiosity rather than judgment, we're much more likely to identify the root cause and prevent them from happening again.
And that's where psychological safety comes in. Creating an environment where people feel comfortable speaking up about mistakes without fear of retribution is essential.
Absolutely. When people feel safe to be vulnerable, they're more likely to share their challenges, ask for help, and ultimately learn and grow.
Which benefits the entire team in the long run. Now, there was one specific anecdote in the episode that I think beautifully illustrates this point. Do you remember the story about the accidental production break?
The one where the developer received that "we're disappointed" email.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a memorable example. But not because of the mistake itself. What's striking is the team's response.
Instead of pointing fingers or assigning blame, they came together to figure out what happened, why it happened, and how to prevent it from happening again.
It's a great example of a team embracing a growth mindset. They use the mistake as an opportunity to improve their processes and strengthen their communication.
So even in those high-pressure moments when something goes wrong, having that supportive team environment can make all the difference. It's not about avoiding mistakes altogether, it's about how we handle them.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's about recognizing that software development is a team sport. Like any team sport, it requires communication, collaboration, and a willingness to support each other through both the triumphs and the inevitable setbacks.
It circles back to that idea of dancing through the chaos. We're not trying to eliminate the chaos because that's impossible. We're learning to navigate it gracefully together.
And maybe even have a little fun along the way. Now, before we wrap things up completely, I wanted to pull out one more nugget of wisdom from the episode that really resonated with me. They talked about the importance of celebrating small wins along the way.
Oh yeah, that's so important,
Mhm.
especially in software development where projects can be long and complex. It's easy to get bogged down in the day-to-day grind and lose sight of the progress we're making.
Taking the time to acknowledge those wins, no matter how small, can boost morale and keep everyone motivated.
They even shared a specific example of a team celebrating a successful launch with, wait for it, a pizza party. Honestly, who doesn't love a good pizza party?
It's not just about the pizza, though, is it? It's about taking a moment to appreciate the hard work, dedication, and collaboration that went into achieving that milestone.
Exactly. And I think that's a beautiful note to end on. So to our listener, as you continue your journey in the world of code collaboration, remember to celebrate those wins, big and small, and never underestimate the power of a supportive team.
And if you ever find yourself feeling overwhelmed by the chaos, remember, you're not alone. We're all in this squirrel rodeo together.
Now, before we sign off, I wanted to leave you with one final thought-provoking question from the episode. They ask, think about a time your team either thrived in chaos or got completely derailed. What made the difference?
It's a question worth pondering as you reflect on your own experiences and continue to hone your collaborative skills.
And remember to check out CodeSkill.xyz for more insights and community discussions on code collaboration.
Until next time, happy coding. It's a question that really makes you think, what is it that makes the difference between a team that thrives in chaos and one that completely falls apart?
Right. It's like, what are those key ingredients that make some teams so resilient?
The CodeSkill Chronicles episode actually ends with this call to action that I thought was really cool. They encourage listeners to share their own teamwork tales.
Yeah.
Both the epic saves and the epic squabbles.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, because we can all learn so much from each other's experiences, right? Whether it's a story about how a junior dev saved the day by asking a dumb question, or a team that totally rallied together after a major production blunder, sharing those stories can really help us all navigate this crazy world of software development.
Totally. It's like we're all in this together. We're all part of this big community of developers, and we all have these war stories to tell.
Right. And it's those shared experiences that can really help us grow as a community.
Exactly. And that's what I love about this deep dive format. We're not just summarizing another podcast. We're using it as a springboard to explore these broader themes and connect with you, our listener, on a deeper level.
It's about fostering that sense of shared learning and growth.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're all on this journey together.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into code collaboration, I want to leave you with a few final thoughts to ponder. First, remember that finding your groove is an ongoing process. Whether you're a junior dev just starting out or a seasoned veteran, never be afraid to ask questions, seek clarification, and advocate for your ideas.
And don't forget that syncing smart isn't just about using the right tools. It's also about establishing clear communication channels, setting expectations, and respecting each other's time and focus.
And when it comes to shipping as a squad, embrace that collective responsibility. Test thoroughly, communicate proactively, and celebrate those wins, both big and small.
Because at the end of the day, software development is a team sport. And like any team, we're stronger when we work together, support each other, and learn to dance through that inevitable chaos.
So to our listener, keep coding, keep collaborating, and keep diving deep. And remember, if you ever find yourself herding those caffeinated squirrels in a thunderstorm, you know where to find us. We'll be right here ready to dive into the next challenge together.